Commander Elias Ward stood inside the Grand Hall of the Andral Empire, trying to hide the quiet curiosity growing inside him. The hall stretched upward like a glowing crystal canyon, filled with floating lights and long silver banners that moved gently through artificial gravity. Every alien in the room stood tall and elegant, their bodies shining with faint blue energy. Elias felt small among them, but he didn't let it show. Humans were famous for pretending they were comfortable, even when they were not. The human delegation had arrived earlier that day, traveling through wormspace to this distant empire for their first major diplomatic meeting. Humanity had recently grown strong in space, building new colonies and new alliances. Many alien empires watched humans with interest, some with fear, and some with confusion. Humans grew fast. Humans learned fast. And humans refused to kneel, no matter the situation. It made them fascinating, but also unpredictable. Elias was the strategic officer for the mission. His job was simple: observe everything, understand everything, and speak only when needed. He preferred that role. It allowed him to stand quietly in a room and watch more than others. He noticed things most people ignored: details, reactions, emotions. Today, his attention kept drifting to the figure sitting on the crystal throne. The Empress of the Andral Empire, Sayalira, was known across star systems as a near-mythical leader. She had ruled for many generations, her lifespan extended by the energy that flowed through her body. Most described her as cold, distant, and impossibly powerful. But Elias did not see coldness. He saw something else, something like quiet isolation. She sat with perfect posture, her silver aura gently rippling around her. Her long hair shimmered like liquid metal, and her eyes glowed softly like twin stars. When she spoke, her voice filled the hall through floating translator drones, smooth and controlled. Her empire's officials spoke about trade, future cooperation, shared research, and the growing threats from an unknown region of space. The humans listened respectfully. Elias too listened, but he kept glancing at the Empress. She only spoke when needed, only looked at her advisors, and never showed emotion. It was like she carried the entire weight of her empire alone. When the meeting ended, the other human officers walked out quickly. They were tired. They wanted a break. Elias stayed behind for a moment, searching the table for the datapad he usually kept in his pocket. He must have left it on the crystal seat where he had been standing. The hall was almost empty now. Only a few guards remained, their armor glowing faintly with violet light. As he moved to pick up the device, he realized the Empress was still seated on the throne. She had not left. Her eyes were closed, her hands resting lightly on her knees, as if she was trying to calm her thoughts. Elias did not want to disturb her, so he remained silent. Then, while looking at her reflection on the polished crystal table, he muttered softly to himself. He did not even notice the words leaving his mouth. I found her beautiful. It was quiet, almost like a breath. But the hall's acoustics carried every sound perfectly. The Empress's eyes opened instantly. Her silver aura flickered, as if someone had dropped a pebble into still water. Elias froze. She slowly rose from her throne and stepped down from the platform. Every movement she made was silent, graceful, almost unreal. Elias felt his body tense. Not from fear, no. Humans rarely showed fear to rulers. It was more from confusion. He hadn't meant to say anything out loud. He didn't even know why he said it. Maybe because he hadn't expected a leader so feared across the galaxy to look so lonely. The Empress stopped only a few steps away from him. Her glowing eyes were fixed on his face, studying him as if he were a strange object she could not understand. "You spoke truth," she said in a soft, trembling voice. "But you did not intend for me to hear it." Her voice was not the cold, perfect tone she used when ruling. It was fragile, personal, almost human. Elias cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, if I offended—" "You did not," she whispered quickly, surprising him. "You did not offend me at all." Her hands shook slightly. The first sign of emotion he had seen from her all day. She looked down for a moment, as if gathering courage. "No one," she said faintly, "has ever said those words to me." Elias blinked. That made no sense. She was a ruler. Many must have admired her, praised her, complimented her appearance or presence. But then he remembered what he had observed. Her people bowed, saluted, obeyed. They feared her power. They respected her authority. But admiration and fear were not the same as someone honestly saying she was beautiful. The Empress lifted her eyes again. "In all my years of ruling, in all the centuries of my life, everyone has spoken to the Empress. But no one has spoken to Celira." Her trembling voice made something shift inside Elias's chest. He realized that even in a palace filled with millions of stars, she had been alone. Elias spoke carefully. "I meant what I said, but I didn't mean to say it aloud." She gave a small breath, almost a laugh, but too soft to be one. Her silver aura calmed, glowing gently again. She studied his face with new curiosity, and he sensed she was trying to understand something about humans that her empire had never tried to understand. "You saw me," she said. "Not the crown, not the energy, not the power. You looked at me as if I were simply a person." Elias had no answer to that, but he didn't look away. That alone seemed to give her strength. She stepped back slowly. "Commander Elias Ward, I request your presence tomorrow morning." "Alone?" Elias's eyebrows raised slightly, but he nodded. "I will be there." The Empress turned and walked away, her silver aura lighting the hall like drifting moonlight. The guards watched her with wide, confused eyes. They had never seen their ruler show vulnerability, certainly not in front of a human. When the hall finally emptied completely, Elias let out the breath he had been holding. He rubbed his forehead and whispered to himself, "What did I just get myself into?" Back aboard the human ship Horizon Reach, his fellow officers immediately noticed something different about him. He seemed distracted, thoughtful, as if his mind had begun following a path he had never walked before. Meanwhile, across the Andral capital, whispers spread like wildfire. Some nobles were uneasy, some were shocked, some were angry. The Empress had allowed a human to speak to her directly. She had reacted emotionally, something unimaginable for their ancient traditions. In the highest chambers of the palace, elder council members murmured darkly about influence, danger, and the strange charm of human beings. They feared what might happen if their Empress began to trust someone outside their species, especially someone from a race as unpredictable as humanity. But the Empress did not listen to them that night. She sat alone in her private chamber, staring at the stars from her balcony. Her hands were still trembling slightly. For the first time in her long rule, she replayed a small sentence in her mind, again and again. "I found her beautiful." A simple sentence, a small moment. Yet it had shaken her heart more than 1,000 battles. She whispered into the quiet air, "Why do such small words feel so powerful when spoken by a human?" The stars gave no answer, but deep in her chest, she felt something she had not felt in centuries. Something warm, surprising, and frightening. Hope. And that hope was directed at one human who had not meant to change her life at all. Yet somehow, he had. Commander Elias Ward woke early the next day, long before the sun of the Andral capital rose over the crystal towers. Sleep had not come easily. His mind kept replaying the strange moment in the throne hall, the way the Empress had trembled, the way her voice had softened, the way she had spoken as if she had waited centuries to hear a simple human compliment. He did not understand why his words had mattered so much to her, but he knew the moment had changed something between them. He dressed in his formal uniform, brushed off a few wrinkles, and stepped into the corridor of the Horizon Reach. The ship hummed quietly as the crew moved through their morning routines. When Elias walked past the command deck, a few officers glanced at him with raised eyebrows. They had all heard the rumor that the Empress had requested him alone. Lieutenant Rhea, his close friend, walked beside him with a half-smile. "So," she said lightly, "you made history yesterday. Or trouble." "Hard to tell the difference." Elias sighed. "I didn't plan anything. It just happened." Rhea laughed softly. "That's the problem with humans. We don't plan to cause reactions. We just exist, and aliens don't know how to handle that. Elias knew she was right. Humans had a habit of surprising the galaxy, sometimes for good and sometimes for chaos. Their boldness, honesty, humor, and unpredictable nature made them respected by some and feared by others. As he walked toward the shuttle bay, Rhea called after him, "Whatever happens, be careful. Her empire watches everything." "I know," he answered quietly. "But I'm not walking into danger. Just a conversation." He believed that. Yet a small part of him felt uncertain. The shuttle took him to the palace. The moment he stepped out, several tall Andral guards bowed formally and guided him through long crystal corridors. Every surface shimmered with light, reflecting faint colors across his uniform. He noticed how every guard looked at him, not with hatred, but with confusion, curiosity, and a little suspicion. He was the human who had made their empress react like no one ever had. They reached a set of large double doors that glowed with blue lines. The guard stepped aside. "She waits inside," the lead guard said. Elias nodded, took a calm breath, and entered. The chamber inside was quiet, warm, and beautifully lit by threads of star-like energy that hung from the ceiling. And there, standing near a wide window of transparent crystal, was Empress Salira. Her silver aura was softer today, less like a shield and more like light from a calm moon. When she turned to him, her eyes carried something human would call emotion still controlled, but present. "I am pleased you came," she said. Elias bowed respectfully. "You requested my presence, Your Majesty." She walked closer, her steps soundless on the smooth glass floor. "I requested your presence because I wished to speak to you without the weight of the throne." A gentle silence filled the room. Elias asked, "How may I serve your Majesty?" "You can start," she said carefully, "by calling me Sailira when we are alone." Elias blinked. He had not expected that. If any Andral heard this, there would be panic. The Empress, allowing a human to address her by name, was almost unthinkable. He nodded slowly. "Very well, Sailira." Her aura flickered softly, as if the sound of her name spoken by him sent a ripple through her energy. She turned to the window. "All my life," she said in a quiet voice, "I have ruled, every action measured, every word controlled, every emotion hidden. My people believe strength means silence, and power means distance." She looked at her reflection in the window, not at him. "When you spoke yesterday, even by accident, I felt seen in a way I have never been seen." Elias stepped closer, keeping a respectful distance. "I didn't intend to cross any line, but I meant what I said." She nodded. "I know you meant it. Your voice carried no lies." For a moment, neither spoke. The room felt still but warm. Then Sailira turned and walked to a table with a floating crystal display. "I want to understand humanity," she said. "Not through reports or translations, but through your eyes." "You want me to explain humans?" Elias asked. "Yes," she replied simply. "Explain how your people think. Why you speak so honestly. Why you act without fear. Why your emotions appear without your permission." She paused, studying him gently. "Explain what makes you human." Elias felt a strange pressure in his chest. Being asked to describe humanity by an alien ruler was no small task. He began slowly. "Humans feel a lot. We don't hide it well. Sometimes it helps us. Sometimes it creates trouble. But our emotions push us forward." Sailira listened as if every word mattered. "We love easily. We argue easily. We care quickly. We protect fiercely. And sometimes, we say things without thinking." She smiled, not big, not loud, but a soft curl of her lips that felt like a sunrise. He nodded with a small laugh. "Yes, like yesterday." Sailira walked closer until she was only a few steps away. There was no fear in her eyes, only deep curiosity. "Is that why your people grow so fast?" she asked. "Because you feel so deeply?" "Maybe," Elias replied. But I think humans grow fast because we try, even when we fail. Salira looked down at her hands. My people do not understand failure. To them, it is shame. Yet to you, it is normal. Failure is how we learn. Elias said softly. We fall and stand again. We lose and try again. That's humanity. Salira walked to a small floating chair made of crystal light and sat gracefully. She gestured for him to sit on the opposite seat. He obeyed. She folded her hands and said, Elias, I want to learn more about your world. Describe it to me. Describe home. So he did. He spoke about Earth, its oceans, its forests, its chaotic weather, its busy cities, and its simple joys. He described humans laughing in parks, families sharing meals, children running through open fields, and people watching sunsets from rooftops. He talked about storms humans survived, discoveries they made, and struggles they overcame. Salira listened with wide, glowing eyes, absorbing every word as if Earth were a dream she had never imagined. Your world sounds alive, she whispered. Loud, but alive. It is, he replied with a smile. It's imperfect, but alive. She stood again and walked slowly across the room. I envy that. My world is beautiful but quiet, controlled, predictable. No one speaks without permission. No one feels without shame. She paused, her voice almost breaking. No one has ever spoken to me freely. Not even those closest to me. Elias understood now why his words had struck her so deeply. They weren't just a compliment, they were freedom she had never tasted. But their moment of peace was broken by the sound of a chime. A guard entered, bowing deeply. Your Majesty, forgive the interruption. The High Council requests immediate audience. They have concerns regarding your private meeting. Salira's aura darkened slightly, like a cloud passing over a moon. Tell them I will not be disturbed, she said sharply. The guard hesitated, bowing deeper. They insist. Your Majesty. They fear human influence may change things. Elias felt tension rise in the room. Salira's voice became firm. I said I will not be disturbed. The guard left quickly. But the message was clear. The High Council did not approve of her being alone with a human. Salira turned back to Elias. My people fear change. They fear anything that touches their traditions. And humans touch everything. Elias stood. If my presence creates trouble, I can leave. She stepped forward quickly, stopping him. No. You are not the cause. You are only the first person to speak to me without fear or expectation. She looked at him, her eyes carrying something both fragile and strong. I want to continue this. I want to learn. I want to feel something real. Elias swallowed gently. Then I'll stay, as long as you want me here. Salira breathed out slowly, relieved. Then we begin a new path. But outside the chamber, shadows were already forming. Several nobles stood in hidden hallways, whispering carefully, watching the door from a distance. Their expressions were filled with worry and suspicion. Humans were dangerous, they believed, not because of weapons, not because of ships, because humans had a strange power, a power to change hearts, a power to break walls inside others, a power to create bonds where none existed, and they feared that their Empress was already changing. Inside the chamber, Elias and Salira stood facing each other, unaware of the quiet storm building outside. For now, there was only curiosity, trust, and a gentle connection growing stronger with each moment. But far beyond the palace, across the empire, messages flew through secret channels. High-ranking nobles prepared to gather. Something was beginning a movement that believed humans should be kept far away from their Empress, and soon, that belief would turn into something much more dangerous. The Andral Empire changed quietly in the days after Elias's private meetings with Salira. No official announcement had been made. Yet whispers traveled faster than starships. In the markets, floating news crystals replayed the same rumor again and again. The Empress spoke to a human. Alone. In the high towers of the palace, nobles exchanged worried glances. In hidden halls, council members met in secret, concerned that their empress was becoming close to someone outside their species. But inside Salira's private chamber, none of those voices existed. She and Elias spent hours talking about their worlds, their people, and the strange ways fate had brought them together. She listened to every detail, hungry for something she never knew she had been missing: honest conversation. Elias tried to remain calm, but even he felt the growing connection. Whenever she walked into the room, her silver aura warmed. Whenever he spoke, she focused on him completely. He had never seen someone so powerful be so quietly vulnerable. One afternoon, Salira asked him to walk with her through the palace gardens. They were unlike anything on earth: floating trees with crystal leaves, soft glowing plants that hummed gently, and lakes that reflected the galaxy above like a mirror. She walked slowly beside him. "My people believe emotions weaken a leader," she said. "They think feelings blur judgment, but feelings help you understand others," Elias replied. "Without them, you rule with fear. With them, you rule with heart." She looked at him thoughtfully. "You speak like someone who has led others." "I've led missions," he said. "Teams, fleets sometimes. Humans trust leaders who understand them, not ones who hide behind perfection." Salira touched one of the floating leaves. It shimmered and released a soft ringing sound. "I want to understand my people," she whispered, "but I also want to understand myself, and that frightens them." Elias gently nodded. New things always frighten those who want the old ways. Before Salira could reply, 2 guards approached quickly, bowing with urgency. "Your Majesty," one said, "the High Council requests your presence in the Crimson Chamber." "It is urgent." Salira's calm expression faded slightly. She gave Elias a reassuring look. "You may walk with me," she said quietly. "What they say concerns you as well." Elias followed close behind as the Empress walked through long hallways. The palace air grew tense. Guards stiffened when they saw Elias at her side. Nobles paused mid-conversation. Whispering spread like smoke behind them. In the Crimson Chamber, the High Council stood waiting. 12 elders, each wrapped in layers of glowing robes, their energy swirling like storm clouds. The eldest stepped forward. His voice was polite, but sharp. "Your Majesty, we must speak of the human." Salira remained calm. "Commander Elias Ward is our guest. And yet," another elder said, "he occupies your private time. He influences your thoughts. Your aura changes when he is near." "That is none of your concern," Salira replied. The chamber quieted. Elders rarely heard the Empress use such a tone. The eldest elder folded his hands. "The Empire whispers of this closeness. Many believe the human is manipulating you." Elias stepped forward. "I have no such intention. I only—" "Silence," an elder snapped. "You speak only when permitted." Salira's aura flashed sharply, and the elder stepped back in fear. "He speaks when I permit," she said. Elias bowed slightly, grateful but still cautious. Another elder spoke. "Your Majesty, you have shown emotion. You have shown vulnerability. This is dangerous." And dangerous things spread. Elias felt the weight of the council's eyes. They did not hate him, they feared the possibility of him. Salira answered calmly. "Humans are not our enemies." "No," the eldest elder said slowly. "But what humans inspire might be." Before the meeting could escalate, an alarm suddenly echoed through the palace. Blue lights flashed across the walls. Guards rushed in. "Your Majesty," a soldier said urgently, "there has been an attack at the border outposts." Elias stiffened. "Human outposts?" The guard hesitated. "Yes. Human colonies and Andral trade posts both. They were attacked by an unknown fleet. Communications were jammed." Salira's calm broke. "Casualties? We do not have numbers yet, but it is severe." The High Council exchanged dark looks. One elder said coldly, "This is because humans entered our borders. Their presence attracts conflict." Elias shot back. "Humans were attacked just as much. This isn't our doing. But the council didn't want to listen. Another elder stepped forward. We propose limiting human access to our empire immediately. Celira's aura glowed dangerously bright. I will not abandon our allies. And I will not push away someone who has done nothing wrong. For the first time, the council argued openly before her. Voices overlapped. Emotions rising. Fear mixing with politics. Elias watched Celira's expression tighten. He saw her struggle not to let the noise overwhelm her. He stepped closer and whispered, "You don't have to face them alone." She met his eyes. For a moment, everything else fell silent inside her. Then she turned to the council and spoke with a strength that made the air hum. "Halt your arguments. I will investigate these attacks myself. And Commander Elias Ward will assist me." The elders reacted with shock. "You cannot travel with a human," one elder began. "I can," Celira said firmly. "And I will." That ended the meeting. The council was furious. But they had no power to overrule their empress. Outside the chamber, Celira walked fast, her aura flickering like disturbed water. Elias followed. "You don't have to include me in this investigation," he said gently. "You're under enough pressure." She stopped and turned, her eyes glowing softly. "I want you there," she said. "Not because I need protection, but because I trust your mind. And because, when I am with you, the noise outside becomes easier to bear." Elias felt his chest tighten at her words. "Then I'll stand beside you." They boarded a small palace ship, built with shimmering metal and living energy. The moment they left the capital, Celira relaxed slightly, as if the weight of millions of eyes had lifted from her shoulders. As the ship traveled through bright tunnels of warped space, Elias reviewed the attack reports. Something was off. Very off. These attackers, they used andral weapons, or copies, Elias said. Celira looked over his shoulder. "Copies are forbidden. Any attempt to replicate our weapons is considered treason." Then someone inside your empire is involved," Elias muttered. "Or someone wants it to look that way." They arrived at the border outpost hours later. The moment they stepped out, the scene was devastating. Craters burned across the terrain. Smoldering metal floated in zero gravity. Human and andral ships lay broken beside each other. Celira's aura dimmed with sorrow. So many lives. Elias knelt beside a damaged human drone and tapped its memory core. The projector flickered, revealing a blurry recording of the attackers. Elias frowned. "These aren't raiders," he said. "They're coordinated. They're organized. They knew exactly where to strike." "Who would attack both our people?" Celira asked. "Someone who wants humans and andral to turn on each other," Elias replied. As they moved deeper into the wreckage, Celira suddenly stopped. She sensed something, an energy signature. She extended her hand, and a faint shimmer appeared in the air. A small andral data crystal materialized, hidden under rubble. Elias retrieved it and activated it. A hologram flickered to life. The image showed cloaked ships leaving an andral military base, one controlled by powerful nobles who opposed human interaction. Celira's face hardened. "The rebellion," Elias looked at her. "Rebellion?" She nodded slowly, eyes filled with grim understanding. "Not all andral accept my rule. Some want to control the empire through fear and tradition. They see humans as a threat to their power." Elias stood. "So they attacked both sides, to make us fight each other." "Yes," Celira whispered, "to force me to reject humans, to isolate our worlds." The truth struck Elias like ice. "This is a coordinated uprising." Celira took a deep breath. "And it has already begun." Before they could return to their ship, a trembling guard ran toward them. "Your Majesty," he shouted. "A message from the capital rebels have taken control of 3 military districts. They demand your surrender." Celira's aura blazed with sharp determination. "I will not surrender." The guard shook with fear. "There is more. They claim they will target human worlds next." Elias felt a chill spread down his spine. The rebellion wasn't just against the Empress. It was against humanity. Sailira turned to Elias, her voice steady but heavy. This conflict is no longer political. It is war. And they will not stop until both our peoples break. Elias stepped close, meeting her gaze firmly. Then we fight back. Together. Sailira nodded slowly. Together. Far away, in the shadows of the capital, rebel leaders watched transmissions of the Empress standing beside a human. Their eyes burned with anger and fear. They prepared their doomsday weapon, and the galaxy unknowingly moved toward a storm that would test both humans and Andral, like never before. He stood at the center of the grand hall, as the alarms continued to echo through the palace. The red lights flashed against the tall pillars, and every shadow looked like an enemy waiting to strike. The Empress stood beside him, her breathing soft but unsteady, her eyes fixed on the giant doors that were shaking from the pressure of the rebels outside. She looked calm on the surface, but he could feel a storm behind her quiet face. She had faced wars, betrayals, and conspiracies, yet the fear in her eyes now was different. It was not fear of death. It was fear of losing something she had only just found. She turned slightly toward him. "They will break through soon," she said in a quiet voice that still carried the weight of an empire. He nodded. "Then we won't let them take even one more step." Her eyes softened, and for a moment the Empress did not look like a ruler of star systems. She looked like a woman who had lived too long in loneliness and shadows. "Why do you stay?" she whispered. "You could escape. You owe me nothing." He looked at her without hesitation. "I stay because you are important. You matter. And I don't leave people I care about behind." Her lips parted, and she looked away quickly as if the emotions were too sharp. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever protected her without asking for power or reward. She had ruled with strength and fear because she believed that was the only way to survive. But he looked at her and simply saw a person, not a throne. The doors shook again, louder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. He stepped in front of her, pulling the blade from his belt. It was small compared to the heavy weapons outside, but he held it with a confidence that made the Empress's heart tremble. She watched his back, the way he stood like a shield, and she felt something warm move in her chest, something she had never known before. The guards rushed forward and formed a line. The Empress's voice echoed sharply, giving orders with quiet authority. But her eyes kept drifting to him, as if she could not stop herself. He felt her gaze but did not turn. Instead, he tightened his grip as the metal doors finally cracked open. When the doors burst, a wave of rebels entered. They were many, angry, desperate, and armed. The guards fought back, and the hall filled with the clash of metal and the sound of shouts. He moved fast, faster than anyone expected. He blocked a strike, pushed forward, and fought with a level of determination that shocked even the rebels. Every time an enemy tried to reach the Empress, he cut them off without fear. The Empress watched him move. Her heartbeat quickened. Not from danger, but from something deeper. She had seen warriors all her life. But none fought like him, not with rage, not with ambition, but with sincerity. He was fighting because she mattered to him. That simple truth made her chest ache. The hall trembled again when a large rebel commander entered. He carried a massive weapon and looked around with cold eyes. His gaze finally landed on the Empress, and a cruel smile spread across his face. "There she is," he said. "The woman who thought she could rule through fear. Today, her reign ends." He raised the weapon toward her. Before the shot fired, the man jumped in front of her, using his own body as a shield. The energy blast struck him, throwing him back onto the floor. The Empress's eyes widened, and something inside her broke. She ran to him, dropping to her knees as chaos continued around them. Her hands shook as she touched his shoulder. "Why?" she whispered, her voice cracking for the first time in years. "Why would you do that?" He winced in pain but still tried to sit up. "Because I meant what I said. You're beautiful. You deserve a life where people don't fear you. I wanted to give you at least one moment where someone stood for you." Her breath hitched. Those words hit her like a shock wave. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her advisors, not her generals, not even those who had tried to court her. They looked at her throne, not at her. But he looked at her heart. She pressed her forehead against his as if trying to hold him to the world. "Don't leave me," she whispered, trembling. "No one has ever said those words to me. No one has ever cared like you do." He smiled weakly. "Then it's time someone did." The rebel commander approached, weapon ready to fire again. The Empress slowly stood, her eyes turning cold with a fury she had not shown in years. But this time the anger did not come from pride. It came from fear of losing him. She raised her hand, and the floor panels around the commander lit up. A pulse of blue energy burst upward, throwing him across the hall. Her voice, sharp and filled with power, echoed through the room. "No one touches him." Those words froze the battlefield. Even the rebels hesitated. She stepped forward, her presence like a storm. Each step echoed with authority. "You call me cruel," she said. "You call me heartless. But you never once tried to understand the burden I carried. I ruled because I had no one. I survived because I had no choice." She looked back at him, lying injured on the floor, and her voice softened in a way no one had ever heard. But he looked at me without fear. He showed me kindness no one else dared. The rebels looked confused. Some even lowered their weapons. They had never seen the Empress vulnerable. They had never seen her anything but cold. She raised her head again. "If you continue this fight, then know this. I will protect him, even if it costs me everything." A silence spread across the hall. The rebel commander struggled to stand again, raising his weapon for one more attack. But before he could fire, the guards surged forward and disarmed him. One by one, the rebels surrendered, realizing the fight was no longer about politics but something deeper. When the hall finally became quiet, she rushed back to him. She knelt beside him again and touched his hand with trembling fingers. "It's over," she whispered. "You're safe." He managed a tired smile. "And you?" She shook her head slowly. "I'm safe because of you." She helped him sit up, her hands gentle, as if he were made of fragile glass. He looked at her closely, noticing the small tremble in her lips, the softness in her eyes. For the first time, she looked like someone who wanted to be held, not feared. "You didn't need to risk yourself," he whispered. She shook her head. "I did. Because when you said I was beautiful, I felt something I thought I could never feel. And when you stood in front of that blast, I realized, I cannot lose you." He touched her cheek lightly. "You won't." Her breath caught as if his touch unlocked something inside her. She leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Stay with me. Not because I am Empress, but because I am a woman who finally found someone who sees her." "I'll stay," he said softly. "Not for the crown, for you." Her eyes glistened, and she held his hand tightly. For the first time since she became Empress, she felt truly human. She felt seen, valued, understood. Outside the palace, the dawnlight rose over the kingdom. The rebellion had ended. The people waited to hear what their Empress would say. But inside the grand hall, none of that mattered for a moment. She sat beside him, leaning her head gently on his shoulder as he rested. He had whispered that she was beautiful, and for the first time in her life, she believed it. She trembled softly. But now it was not from fear, it was from hope. A new dawn had risen not only over the empire but inside her heart, and she would protect that feeling with everything she had.